Tak dobrý den, ještě jednou. Rád bych vás přivítal na našem posledním webináři, tentokrát pořádaném se společností Supermicro WEKA. Dnešní prezentace bude probíhat v angličtině, takže pokud budou případné dotazy, můžete samozřejmě interaktivně vstoupit do toho webináře anebo se zeptat prostřednictvím chatu. Upozorňuji na začátek, že znovu z podmínek GDPR budeme nahrávat dnešní webinář, takže snad s tím nebude nějaký zásadní problém. A k organizaci bude velmi podobná jako na předcházejících webinářích, to znamená na začátek krátké představení společnosti ASBIS. Následně dáme slovo našim partnerům ze Supermicra, panu Joshu Hankingovi, což je Field Application Engineer ze Supermicra. Hello, Josh.
Hi there, guys.
A následovat bude Adrian Burch, což je Sales Director EMEA z WEKA.
Hi, pleased to meet you. Hi.
Tak, jak jsem předesílal, začneme krátkým představením společnosti ASBIS. Tak, první slide je vždycky o tom představit skupinu ASBIS jako takovou. To aktuální působí v 26 zemích. Vidíte, že Česká republika je členem skupiny v té nejzápadnější části. Co se týká České republiky, zase pár takových základních údajů. Asi nejdůležitější je předpokládaný obrat za ASBIS Česká republika, něco kolem 2 miliard v letošním roce. Spolupracujeme se 14 aktivními zákazníky. Aktuálně máme asi 62 zaměstnanců, to znamená střední firma. Spolupracujeme se s více než 140 dodavateli a nabízíme prostřednictvím našeho B2B shopu asi 16 000 produktů. Naší velkou výhodou je lokální sklad tady v Praze i v Bratislavě a navíc dostupný centrální sklad ASBIS Enterprise nebo ASBIS celé té skupiny taky nedaleko Prahy, takže v podstatě výborné logistické služby. Co se týká představení vadového portfolia jedné z divize ASBISu, kterou mám na starosti, tak jsou tady základní značky a základní produktové skupiny, kterými oslovujeme český trh, projekty a řešení, které připravujeme pro český trh. Neodmyslitelně samozřejmě servery a týče značek, které je tady uveden, nějaká inženýrská infrastruktura, audio-video řešení, networking a samozřejmě storage. To jsou vlastně nejdůležitější oblasti za nás. Následuje krátké představení týmu. Je to v podstatě postaveno na 3 základních pilířích. Jeden z nich je produktový, obchodní a potom samozřejmě marketingová podpora. A co se týká dnešního webináře a řekněme nějakého fokusu na našeho klíčového serverového vendora Supermicro spolu s WEKou, tak se neváhejte obracet kdykoliv na naše specialisty Honzika Meda z pohledu jako architektury serverů, případně Petra Michalfajta z pohledu jako kdyby konfigurace a kompatibilit. A ten vlastní návrh je potom realizován k vám prostřednictvím našich projektových obchodníků a také kompletně prostřednictvím celého obchodního týmu ASBISu. No a co bychom byli bez divize, bez marketingové podpory, takže díky Bibi i za dnešní organizaci webináře. Drobné upozornění na vaši pozornost. I když bude dnešní prezentace v angličtině, buďte prosím obezřetní, sledujte ty detaily, abyste byli úspěšní ve finálním kvízu, který bude následovat bezprostředně po těch prezentacích. Máme dneska připraveno 6 hodnotných cen. Poslední info, která se týká účasti na všech 4 webových seminářích z těch 6, to znamená, do slosování budou zařazeni ti, kteří se zúčastnili minimálně 4. Mám tady poznámku o tom, že finální slosování nebo vylosování těch vítězů bude provedeno z těch partnerů, kteří se zaregistrovali, s těma minimálně 4 účastmáma, proběhne 7. prosince. My to samozřejmě budeme oficiálně nahrávat a samozřejmě následně odkomunikujeme na našem IT kanále vítěze nebo výherce. Za mě je to tedy všechno. Dal bych aktuálně prostor našim partnerům. Následovat bude přednáška Supermicra a pana Joshua. So Josh, it's your turn. I think you can start, share your presentation and do the presentation.
Okay, let me get that up here first. Perfect. So yes, very pleased to be here. So my name's Joshua Hankin. I'm an FA manager at Supermicro. So that's predominantly a pre-sales technical role. And so today I wanted to walk you through a number of different parts of our product portfolio. So one of which is along with our friends at WEKA. And so I'll walk you through the Supermicro piece on that from a hardware perspective. And then I've also got some other interesting products on our single socket when we talk about the more compute focused aspects of our portfolio as opposed to the storage. So for us, with the WEKA product, it is part of what we call our total solutions. And so for us, total solutions have always been particularly interesting because we have a very key understanding for us of how we provision that. And so we as Supermicro know that, you know, we provision the best hardware possible to our customers. And so when it comes to providing complete solutions, we want to partner with those who are providing the best software out there. And WEKA being one of our key partners at the moment who we're working with to provision a total solution for storage. And so from our side, what this allows us to do really is to be particularly agnostic with our hardware when we look at the software vendor that we're working with here, WEKA, and to make sure that we're going to be provisioning the hardware that best fits your requirements, putting that together with the best software to meet your requirements, which is going to be the WEKA, and therefore providing a from the ground up, as it were, more bespoke style solutions than just a single line item product as it was. And so we've grown our portfolio obviously over the years, and it is a very vast portfolio of product. And one of the key parts of that portfolio with WEKA is our options for NVMe solutions. And NVMe is not something that's vastly new to us here at Supermicro. In fact, we were one of the first, if not the first, server manufacturer to enable NVMe storage on our products. And we've had that now for a number of generations. So it's a very, very evolved product, a very, very mature product. And so what you'll find with our platforms when we talk about NVMe is that you're going to be able to support more NVMe, faster NVMe, larger NVMe in a much smaller platform and footprint than you would be able to on any other vendor's platform or product. Then if we're pairing that with a number of different options from our CPU vendors, both AMD and Intel, that gives us, as I was saying before, the ability to really provide a much more bespoke solution to fit the customer's end requirements and be able to scale that up as and when we need. So we've been working with WEKA for quite a long time now, actually, and so our product platforms are our latest generation, and as we look forwards to the upcoming generations that will be there, you will be certain that we will be validating, supporting and creating new reference architectures to support WEKA. And of course I will let the WEKA guys talk a little bit more detail about their software aspects of it, while I particularly focus on the hardware aspect. And so there's a number of ways to go about purchasing a Supermicro WEKA solution, and of course the first is coming up with the individual configuration itself, not just for each node but also for the complete solution with multiple nodes in there, as well as if we need the networking options there as well, and the cabling. That's something that we as Supermicro can completely provide. And so we have a huge amount of information and testing that we have done on WEKA, and a number of very, very large deployments that we've had on WEKA, and a lot of wins there to be able to go in and get information from. And so we do have our individual nodes. So those are based on a number of our different technologies, whether that be Intel or AMD, whether that be our more traditional 1U, 2U platforms, or our multi-node systems like our 2U4 node or 2U2 node big twins. And so from there you can look at it as individual building blocks and work up to a cluster. We also do have pre-configured clusters for different particular vertical types, and we also have a individual kind of as it was test AI cluster, which comes with a number of Supermicro GPU solutions designed specifically for AI and deep learning, alongside our WEKA appliance, which again is a great fit for the AI and deep learning infrastructures there as well. So there's a lot of ways to go in and configure this, and as I said, as a kind of more traditional bespoke solution is there as an option, or those slightly more single line item clusters if that fits perfectly what you're looking at. But of course we are perfectly able to go in and chop and change those around, and look at the various different performance levels that are required, and design a solution there to fit. And that again kind of really comes into the Supermicro overall product portfolio, which is that we never like to under provision or over provision. We sort of call it the Goldilocks zone, as it was. We're going to make sure that we're providing you with the best solution and best option there. And I think one of the wonderful products that we have that is validated and we have WEKA.io reference architecture on is our 2U2 node big twin. Which essentially is providing a great starter platform. If you could design from the ground up a platform for this type of infrastructure, our big twin would be it, and that is because that's how we designed it. So for lots and lots of our large scale customers out there, the big twin is the kind of de facto go-to standard when it comes to a distributed storage system where we need multiple nodes. And that's what's wonderful about this, is it's a very nice, very clear package of what you're getting, and provides exactly what you need. And so for the standardized traditional reference architecture that we have here, we'd be looking at 232 core CPUs, 256 gig of memory, and then when we're starting to look at the per node storage, we are able to support the latest generation PCIe Gen 4 drives on the NVMe bus. So what that's going to do is going to be able to provide you with quite a considerable amount of storage, because we're talking about 15.36 terabytes per drive, but also being able to have that PCIe Gen 4 speed means that this thing is going to perform incredibly well. And so that's when you start to see down here with the IO, while we're offering options for the 200 gig, because you're going to be able to get very close to saturating that link. So if you are looking for very, very high performance, high density, high capacity storage, then this solution is a great fit for what we're offering our customers. You're also getting a huge amount of flexibility in terms of the I/O as well. So if it is required to have additional add-on costs there for 25 gig, for 10 gig, for other levels of management, we've got great options there. And also those 200 gig ports are being provided by OCP 3.0 compliant NICs. And so what's great about that is that as we move forwards with technology, of course, there's increases in speeds and feeds from these things. So if there is requirements at later date to switch to a different NIC, then that can be done very, very easily. These things are completely hot swappable. They don't take up traditional I/O slots. So it allows that flexibility, but also from the management and maintenance perspective as well, to be able to go in and pull those things out without even having to touch the system node, no screws, none of that. And so really, I think this is a great option. And, I talk about the 15 terabytes, of course, that's on the quite high end, but there's lots of options in between for us to be able to move that down depending on the exact capacity that the customer is wanting. And all of those NVMe drives, we have a wide variety of variations on validation from a number of different vendor partners of ours as well. So if there are any particular requirements on the NVMe to be a particular vendor, we're going to be able to support that as well. Same with the NIC capabilities. Of course, HDR is a NVIDIA Mellanox proprietary connection, but of course on the 25 gig, 10 gigs and 100 gigs even, we've got lots of different options from Intel, from Broadcom, from Mellanox, you name it. We can support on that front. And I think that's what's going to be great about a Supermicro solution, is that because we've got such a wide portfolio of product, and this is only one of the many systems that we have on the WEKA reference architecture, it means that we're not necessarily going to be shoehorning customers into taking a particular platform that's not right for them. If a multi-node solution isn't quite for them because of, for example, density and power constraints within a given rack layout, or whether it's to do with the available cooling, we have the option for those more traditional 1Us and 2Us, or even further, we've got the more dense products on the 2U 4 node as well. So having that very, very wide portfolio of product allows us to be able to really offer that complete bespoke solution, but not just on the storage as well. And this is something that I'll talk about a little bit later on. And that is being able to offer the complete total solution, not just within the storage aspect here, but also within the compute aspect and the networking aspect, being that one-stop shop for customers to be able to go, okay, great, I have this new greenfield application that I'm going to be running on in my new racks or my new data center, and I am looking for, an incredibly good and flexible and performant storage system, but I also need the various compute and application systems to go with that as well, and link those all up together under a network. Being able to do that with us as Supermicro partnered with WEKA allows the full access to that portfolio, and doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have any internal strife from us at Supermicro when provisioning these things, because it's our job really to find what's best for the customer, and because we've got that flexibility of product and platform, it's going to allow us to be able to do that. We do have a huge amount of information available on our website. I know WEKA also has a great selection of white papers and stuff on their website as well. In regards to our reference architectures, in regards to the systems themselves, as well as, you know, some videos, some white papers and things like that, you can go to our Supermicro Solutions page on our website, and from there you can select the WEKA platform. And that will give a lot of information. Of course, if there is any further information that's required on, you know, any of the particular platforms or the system itself, of course, you know, myself along with my colleagues at ASBIS and WEKA are always very, very happy to help. We have done a lot of testing and benchmarking as well internally on these platforms, so we are able to provide, you know, performance figures both that we have tested and also real world performance figures that we know our customers have tested out to make sure that, you know, we can guarantee that the customer is going to be happy with, you know, the product and the feature set, but also happy with the performance of that solution as well. And so, as I mentioned, you know, pairing this great and amazing storage solution with the compute and application platforms, of course, is very, very important, and something that we've noticed and we've designed around in the most recent generation of ours from both Intel and AMD has been single socket. And so when you're looking at CPUs that go up to 64 cores and have 128 PCIe lanes, are able to support up to, you know, 2, 4, 8 terabytes of memory per single socket, you start to kind of go back and look at, you know, why particularly were we using a dual socket system for our compute and application orientated systems? Well, a large portion of that was because for the dual socket was to get much higher cores. Well, we can do that quite easily in a single socket now. You know, 32, 40, 64, it's all supported there. Okay, well, I also needed the memory and the memory bandwidth. Well, with 8 channels of memory up to, you know, a number of terabytes, that covers nearly, you know, 99.9% of what the industry is using today in their systems. And then you go, okay, well, you know, I have GPUs, or I have a large amount of NICs or FPGAs or storage controllers, and I need the IO, I need that many PCIe lanes. Well, you know, if we can do 128 with a single socket, why necessarily are we looking at dual then for these particular applications and appliances? So, you know, we really went back to the drawing board with this generation and built a subset of systems kind of towards that idea of utilizing single socket as the mainstay of the platform. And so some of our more traditional systems that were always available on a single socket, like our WIO product, for example, we went in and looked at it and said, well, with all this wonderful stuff that we're getting with the new single socket options, you know, how can we enable customers to essentially be able to move their dual socket systems to a single socket? Well, one of those main things was the support for the latest technology in terms of storage, so NVMe, for example. And so we look to enable on our WI platforms not just, you know, 2 NVMe as standard or 4 as an option, but also have a single socket platform that is supporting full NVMe. That was a really big part for us, and so you'll see a huge number of our products on the single socket available on the NVMe. You'll also see these available within that portfolio that we are validating for the reference architecture on the WEKA side of stuff as well. And we really wanted to make sure that it wasn't a compromise here on the moving to dual socket to single socket. You know, and the big aspect of that is first of all cost. You're looking at a single socket. Yes, of course, the individual CPU is more expensive than one CPU, but when you combine the cost of 2 down into 1, you also look at the fact that the board is going to be a single socket. We're using less power here, we need less cooling. As an overall TCO, it becomes a much more compelling story. It also becomes more compelling if you were only utilizing the dual socket, not for the cores, but for the I/O. You know, lots of licensing is based around, you know, sockets as well as cores, and so that can help bring those costs down as well. And also, you know, right now there is quite a large global shortage on, frankly, everything. Within technology, it's not just memory and SSDs as it started out. You know, it's not just platforms of products, but, you know, CPUs are particularly difficult to get hold of at the moment due to, you know, the shortages in precious metals and things like that. And so moving to a single socket means we halve the amount of CPUs we need to get hold of, right? So there's a huge benefit there in terms of being able to get product available and ready to go. And so being able to offer a more readily available platform at a better price with a better TCO and still provide the same level of performance and feature set as the dual sockets is a very, very interesting option for a lot of customers. And so we've talked about the WIO. We have a huge range for more traditional monolithic archival data storage we have there, but very, very interesting for the first time ever, we've actually launched single socket twins. So our twin being our 2U2 node or 2U4 node product. This was always traditionally at Supermicro a dual socket system, really designed on the big twin side of stuff. That's still for the kind of large storage stuff, as we talked about with WEKA, but on the Twin Pro, that was always very traditionally designed as a platform for compute. And we have a huge amount of customers in, you know, the HPC space, the VFX space for, you know, graphics rendering, all using our Twin Pros, and a number of those have in the recent years been looking at moving towards single socket options when we are talking about, you know, very, very large core count solutions on the single socket. And so we released for the first time ever a single socket twin. I think that really does go to show on our side that, you know, we're evolving and we're looking to support and provide products out to our customers based around their requirements. That's really our go-to strategy for designing new platforms and products. Is we go and talk to our customers, we understand in the market what's being utilized, what customers are interested in, and go from there. Other aspects on the single socket is not just looking at the traditional Xeon Scalable or AMD EPYC range of product, but also looking at these traditionally single socket CPUs like the Xeon W, for example. So we've realized due to, you know, recent events that remote desktop and single socket options in the data center become much more applicable. And so we realized that remote workstations, specifically on those trying to do any sort of graphical workloads, was a very, very big part of the uptake on a single socket over the last year. And so we've looked to design and develop systems to take things like the Xeon W, to take, you know, dual width or single width GPUs. And so this particular platform here is an absolute wonder for the remote workstation users. We have a number of quite large deployments based around this particular platform and product. But we also have a lot of options on the AMD side of things as well. So a platform and product that I've been incredibly excited to launch has been our 2U2 node GPU system. And the reason for that is, A, it comes in both an AMD variant, which you can see here, but we also have an Intel variant, either on the AMD, on the EPYC, or on the Intel, on the Xeon Scalable. So it's essentially a multi-node. It's kind of part of our twin, part of our GPU portfolio of product. But this is a single socket, one new platform per node that's going to be able to support 6 single width GPUs and 3 double width GPUs. And so the reason that this is a multi-node architecture is because of that shared power, shared cooling, going to lower the TCO, going to provide a great stable product for those customers who are looking at quite a vast difference in their deployment. So remote desktop, again, single socket support with GPUs. You know, we also support the AMD Radeon Instinct and NVIDIA Enterprise GPUs, but we're also talking about things like the Quadros, for example, the A5000, 6000s, 4000s. We're going to be supporting in there on top of the A100s and the Radeon Instincts. You know, so if you're looking at the Quadros for a remote desktop or visualization, great. Or you could have this as, you know, an AI deep learning product with those A100s, or an AI deep learning inference platform with the option for the T4s in there as well. So we've had a lot of uptake from customers on this particular platform and product. It is very, very flexible and fits into a number of different environments, but you're also getting, you know, a lot of feature sets there, from the support for NVMe on the, you know, the U.2 based product. We're also, you know, having support for our AIOM networking. So, you know, for you guys, when you're looking at configurations for this, they're going to be completely different for the guys who are looking at the AI and deep learning, and those guys looking at remote desktop, or people doing visualization based workloads. So having that flexible networking, flexible storage really is going to make a big difference on a product like this, where we can support that. And having it as a multi-node that shares power and cooling means that this product can scale very, very well. With GPUs these days being particularly power hungry, you know, moving to a single socket system that has that more efficient power and cooling architecture, as a twin does, means that we can more effectively use the rack space that we're working with. You know, so if we wanted to have a large number of these for deep learning and AI, whether that be inference in our rack, and then pairing that with, you know, a high performance storage, you know, WEKA solution from ourselves, as well as the networking, you know, this is going to allow us to be able to do that much more efficiently and effectively, without, you know, wasting, you know, what is a very precious commodity in this day and age, which is physical rack space. It's not something we are able as human beings to necessarily manufacture more physical space on this earth. You know, there is a point when there's going to be an inflection, and data center space is going to increase at quite a rapid rate. And so looking at platforms and technologies like this, along with our WEKA solutions, definitely provides, you know, an additional string to our bow to be able to go out there and talk to all these different types of customers. And so that's really the message that I would like to leave you with today, is that, you know, our platform and products are very, very flexible. We have lots and lots of options, as we spoke about here, on the compute aspect side of things. We can also pair that with a wonderfully performant, again, wonderfully flexible storage solution on the WEKA, along with the networking, is going to allow us to be able to go out to a number of different customers and get a bigger piece of that pie, and to be able to support them and service them in a, you know, a great manner, and make sure that you know, we keep those customers happy and keep them buying, you know, from yourselves and from us. And so, of course, we're always happy to get engaged, and if there was anything of interest today that you think you have a particular customer it's jumped out the screen to you and said, I know somebody who will love that and who will love this, you know, we're always very, very happy to work with, you know, our ASBIS colleagues to support you guys, and to make sure you've got all of the information that you require to go out there and effectively you know, sell to your customers. So thank you very much.
So Josh, also thank you very much. So let's switch to WEKA. Adrian.
Hi there. Hi.
So would it be possible to share your presentation as well?
Yeah, there seems to be some feedback on the microphones. That's better now.
Yeah.
Right, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see. So
Brilliant.
we can start.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, quick overview. My name is Adrian Burch. I look after sales here at WEKA for Europe, or mainland Europe, Middle East and Africa. Relatively short period at WEKA. I joined in February. I was brought in to basically scale and grow the EMEA territory. But I come with over 30 years of storage experience, 32 years actually of storage experience. So I'm going to give you basically a high level overview. My technical guy unfortunately is not here, so I can touch on a few technical slides. But any real in-depth technical questions, then we could either do a Q&A at the end, or please, put it into the chat, any technical questions you have. So just a high level overview of who WEKA are. And WEKA was founded in 2014. The founders of the company wanted to make WEKA a utility, to make storage more of a utility, where legacy storage companies, you had to make compromises. So every time you wanted to scale, you either had to have more drive trays, or you had to have more controller units, and so on and so forth. And suddenly, what became quite a simplistic management tool became a nightmare to manage. So WEKA was built on the premise of a software only. We were designed purely to run with NVMe technology. And by doing this, we can actually add greater performance, higher scalability, and easy to management. And we launched the software in 2017. And so far to date, we have 8 of the world's largest companies as customers, which in a short period of time is a great testament on where customers and companies are seeing WEKA going. And a lot of companies now are wanting to jump on the journey with WEKA. And more importantly, it's who we're actually funded by. So WEKA is quite uniquely funded in this industry. So some of the industry's leading compute, storage and networking company fund WEKA. So people like NVIDIA is probably the major investor in WEKA. And before their acquisition of Mellanox was an investor in WEKA as well. And people like Cisco are investors, and some of the world's largest NVMe SSD manufacturers, people like Micron, Western Digital, Seagate, are all investors in WEKA. And again, this is a huge testament to see these companies seeing where WEKA is going with our roadmap. And also, we actually get to see where these guys are going with their roadmaps. So you take NVIDIA, for example, they launched a new technology in, I think it was June this year, called GPU Direct. WEKA had support for this technology back in February of this year, and around the GPU Direct, and we're only one of 3 storage companies that actually support that technology. So we've seen a lot of disruptive trends within the marketplace, and you've got the cloud that's giving great agility. You've got NVMe for performance, and as I mentioned, people are moving around GPU compute and around GPU Direct. But what this does, I've just highlighted 6 sort of areas of marketplace. So if you take the financial services, for example, a lot of customers are moving away from traditional banking, and they're moving towards applications that require high intense workloads around algorithmic trading, tick databases, quantitative analysis. All this within the financial world is happening, and these companies need to stay abreast. But a lot of applications in the automotive field, we have 12 or 13 of the world's largest autonomous vehicle companies, and where we're doing their self-driving programs, where we're also doing, they call it ADAS. We're on level 6 or 7 of the ADAS automotive programs now. In life sciences, we look after some of the world's largest genome centers, from people like Genomics England, Decode Genomics, where people are doing genome sequencing and long genome sequencing. In traditional markets where oil and gas, entertainment, we have some of the world's largest entertainment organizations and media companies as customers. But what we're trying to say here is all these use cases all have different data characteristics. So traditionally, you would go into the life sciences, for example, and you would supply a storage array for the life sciences. You then touch on the financial services and you will sell a storage array for that. That's great. But when you take all of this kind of data that's happening in the real world around high performance compute data, AI data, ML data, deep learning data, what we're saying is a lot of companies now are looking to deploy these multiple workloads within inside their own environment. So this comes multiple different data characteristics. So a certain application may want millions and millions of 4K files, and another application they're bringing on board may need a single file of 4 petabytes. Now, normally to do that, you would either have a parallel file system that is highly tunable for all these different workloads, or you would sell them a different storage array. But what we're showing you here now is basically with all this different data characteristics up in the cloud here, WEKA enables all these multiple applications, different data to reside on our single software data platform. Yeah, so we can ingest data through our own, there's no gateways involved here. So we ingest data via our own very high performant S3 front end. We also support SMB and NFS. We have our own POSIX client. And as mentioned, we can ingest data via GPU direct. What this allows companies to do is collapse their current storage and infrastructure by running it purely in the WEKA storage platform. We are highly scalable, should I say. We go from 150 terabytes to over 14 exabytes. We have 3 customers now that have actually over 3 exabytes of data. But what we're allowing is competitive advantage. And when I mean a competitive advantage, one of our largest, you'll see it in a minute on another slide, but one of our largest electrical car company based in California, who we probably know, I can't name, you look how advanced their electrical car is to compare to some of the other automotive vehicle companies. They've been using WEKA now for 3 years. They originally were on pure storage. Now they use pure storage for an object layer behind WEKA. So WEKA sits in front and we basically tier our data to pure storage for their cold data, cold tier. But what we're saying here, we also support a global single namespace within inside the infrastructure. And we also do support, because NVMe technology, SSD is relatively still expensive. We're then saying, well, we can support object tier layers. So we support people like Scality, Cloudian, CleverSafe, or IBM's CleverSafe, sorry, network compliant storage grid. We support Amazon's EC2, we support Dell's EC platform as well. So we support multiple object tiers. This gives you then the option to put a small layer on NVMe and then vast data basically on object layer, and that's running in spinning disk. And we support that either in on-site or off-site, currently in AWS in the public cloud. And we will have Azure and Google Cloud next year. Some of our customers globally, as mentioned, we can't reference a lot of our customers because we've given them so advanced in competitive advantage, they do not want to know, their competitors know what they're using. But if you take Microsoft, Microsoft do their whole research and development with us globally. NVIDIA, even though they're an investor in WEKA, before they invested, they're actually a customer of WEKA, and they do all their research and development on WEKA platforms. Intel are the same. You can read the names anyway, but we're just showing you here we play in multiple vertical markets. We're not just about high performance computing. We play very well with that, but also around AI workloads, ML workloads, deep learning workloads. We work very well on that technology. We're probably the largest AI storage provider globally. And what we like to do is, Josh mentioned on his slide deck, what we need to do is basically we give you scalability, speed and simplicity. What this means is we can scale from terabytes to exabytes. We give you data mobility, so we can port data to the cloud. You can run WEKA directly in AWS, or we can burst certain applications to that. Yeah, we give you a single pane of management. So when you do a NVMe layer and then you do an object layer, WEKA controls all of that environment. And basically we give you industry-leading performance. So I'm going to basically touch on something now. So on a single GPU client, WEKA can drive the performance of 162 gigabytes per second with just under 1 million IOPS of a single GPU client. That's the performance that WEKA is looking at. Yeah, we can we drive at wire speed, so we support InfiniBand or Ethernet. You'll see on the next slide, actually, when we come across, normally Mark would deliver this slide, but I'll do this pretty simplistic. So WEKA is loaded here in the middle. These middle little grey boxes are the NVMe drives. Ignore the number of NVMEs in there. Yeah, so we support a minimum configuration of 6 storage nodes. That storage nodes could be built up of any capacity, but that's minimum 6. We actually recommend 8, how we do our data layering and erasure coding, which I'll touch on in a minute. So basically, this is formed on this diagram. We've got 8 servers. Yeah, in here we could show an expansion, but I'll touch on that. So WEKA is loaded in a small container, not Docker. It's WEKA's own LXE container. With inside this container controls all our metadata. So we have no separate metadata nodes. We have each data is written here on the metadata on each server across here. We then give it one single global namespace. As mentioned, we can support Ethernet or InfiniBand. You can run InfiniBand and Ethernet in the same storage nodes. So where traditional high performance compute are used to InfiniBand, Mellanox InfiniBand, AI workloads or the AI departments that are controlling this are used more to an Ethernet topology. So we can run HPC and Ethernet, hence why we are being designed to run mixed platforms. Now, I apologize now, this slide is slightly out of date. My apologies, I have to update it. We support, we support GPU Direct. We load our own WEKA client on here. We support, we have a CSI plugin for Kubernetes as well. So on there, we support NFS, SMB, and as mentioned, we have our S3 front end. So what we do, we basically control a volume here. Excuse the drawing, I'm no artist, but we basically ingest data from many ways. So you can bring data across, and as mentioned, we have our own S3, and we obviously ingest data into here. Now, this is nice and fast on the NVMe layer, but NVMe comes at a price. So how are we actually secure and write data? So as mentioned, we have our own metadata on each of these servers. I won't draw it along, but on each of these servers. We stripe the data. We have no RAID controllers. We disabled the RAID controllers on board. So we write using a technology called erasure coding. This is not what you know of Tornado or Solomon Reed. This is WEKA's own proprietary erasure coding. So we stripe data across all these servers. Yeah, and because of the metadata placement that we have, if any one of these servers crashed, yeah, each one of these servers would know where that data is. So we can actually do rebuilds. When we rebuild the data, there is zero impact to performance. And also when you want to scale, so you've reached your capacity, you want to add more storage and more compute. The more you add to WEKA, the faster WEKA goes, because in here, the more Ethernet or InfiniBand cards you can put into the server, WEKA will saturate each one of those cards. So like I mentioned, on this technology GPU Direct, we can drive 162 gigabytes per second, yeah, with 1 million IOPS. That is obviously based on a single GPU Direct client talking directly to the NVMe. That's how it works, GPU Direct. We bypass all the kernel and everything like that. But NVMe comes at a price. Yeah, so what we actually allow you to do is build another volume, should I say, or the same volume basically here. But you may have only 20% of your data up here, which is expensive on NVMe. So we allow you to extend the data either in the public or private, yeah, to allow. So this could be 5 petabyte of data here. Excuse the drawing, guys. 5 petabyte here. You may have 1 petabyte here. But what WEKA allows you to do, this will become one single namespace. So this then, the NVMe tier acts as a read and write cache. So you're writing data in here, you bring it down, and then it goes down here. When you need to recover that data, you just bring it back, and that WEKA allows you to have automated tiering. So you can tier or burst to the S3 target area. So we're pretty unique on that front. Sorry about this, guys, my mouse. Where are we? There we go. So hopefully that was a bit clear of how WEKA is all bolted together. As we said, all this can be done on commodity x86, AMD or Intel hardware. We have a great relationship with Supermicro. We have some of the world's largest installations with Supermicro. Personally, I've just done a rather substantial deal out in the Middle East with a large university running on Supermicro hardware with WEKA. And the customer, for example, needed a minimum of 40 million IOPS per second and over 400 gigabytes per second throughput for this AI project we delivered. And we obviously secured it with the bare minimum number of servers from Supermicro required. But so just carrying on. Basically, this is the large electrical car company in California that happens to be a joint customer with Supermicro. They have a cycle called an epoch cycle in the AI world, and basically where they validate, train, and transform. So they mount 20 cameras on a car, drive it around at different angles, take it around, bring that data back, extract that data from those cameras, and put it on site. Each one of those processes were taken around 80 hours for each vehicle to validate, train, then transform. That was running on pure storage. After deploying WEKA, we took each one of those epoch cycles down to 4 hours. So in effect, we could give them a year's worth of work in under a week. So you wonder why a large electrical car company in California probably is the leader with electrical vehicles. Yeah, by collapsing that work, you think how much that is value to that car company, how much more they can actually deliver, which they have delivered, yeah. But what this gave them was a 95% reduction in what we call wall clock time. Yes, we were able to reduce them, yeah. And this, as you can see, if you take the other automotive vehicle manufacturers in the world, you can see this large electrical car company is far more advanced than the others. They're playing catch up. We have WEKA deployed in some of these other automotive car companies. They're slowly catching up, but they've been using us for 3 years, so they're well advanced. We have another joint customers with Supermicro, a company called OMRF, which is medical research. We do have others, like my large one I sold last quarter in the Middle East. I don't mind naming them. It's a company called KAUST, King's Alabama University of Science and Technology. They're probably the 8th largest, most respected university in the world. They bought WEKA with Supermicro. This is just showing basically another reference we have. We're using Big Twins. We also have another one with SAIC in America. We also have people like Institut Pasteur in France, and you have lots and lots of customers we have with Supermicro. So what I'm going to show you now before I end, we've done some Supermicro bundles. Yeah, this is to put what we call a stake in the ground. So if you wanted a 250 terabyte usable with NVMe technology, we can build this up using, first of all, the part number, WEKA AMD 250. This is using AMD EPYC processors. We can do this with Intel as well, but this is just showing you a sample. You'd have 8 servers. There's 7 NVMe drives in each, obviously in each server of the Cuxia 7.68 terabytes. You also get 3 years hardware support and 3 years WEKA software support, but you can see some of the performance figures that we can actually deliver by this small bundle. Now, these are street price. This is recommended retail price of these bundles. I do know what price they hit the street at. They are highly, highly attractive to end user clients to actually get, if they're sampling AI projects, or if they're sampling, you know, they've got deep learning projects or machine learning projects. One thing you don't know about WEKA is we're in behind a lot of automated technology. So if you take the home music device that everyone uses in their home called Alexa, WEKA is behind the technology in Alexa. Same with Siri. WEKA is, again, voice activated because of the performance WEKA can deliver. But this is just a sample pricing of what we can actually do. If any customers say they wanted 700 terabytes worth of NVMe storage, we would build this with Supermicro for that for you. Very simple. This is internally as well. On that, we just have a WEKA.pm/Supermicro for information. But this is where we'd really like to get to. What is WEKA, where we are? We always say to everybody, follow the GPU. Where there is GPU, they're looking at very high mixed volume workloads. This is where WEKA is really, really great, performs really well. I also say, and I don't mind distributing this slide deck to ASBIS afterwards, which they can obviously then distribute to yourselves, so you can read it in your own time. But one qualification question we always ask, and this is why we have been really successful, I think, and I'm going to repeat this in a way. We always say to the end user customer, Mr. Customer, what does it mean to you if I was to make your main application go 2 times, 10 times, or even 50 times faster? What does this mean to your business? We stop, we pause, let them come back, let them think. Every company in their right mind, if they were to just get 2x performance increase, what would that mean to them? It would mean faster time to market, manufacturing production lines going quicker. It all depends. Financial markets. We've just done a very large project with a very large Swiss financial institute where they needed to deliver over 200,000 4K files in a second. Yeah, for very, very high quantitative algorithmic trading. Yeah, so they can capture data all around these different markets and basically speculate if they want to invest or not. If they invest at the right time, yeah, then they can make millions and billions of dollars. So this is what they were destined. So we actually rewrote a bit of code in WEKA, and we managed to deliver to them 250,000 4K files in a second, which is unbelievable. So we have a great engineering team. We have global support. So we have four support centers around the world. We have California, we have Israel, we have United Kingdom, and we have Tokyo. So we follow the sun globally around. But please, if there's any questions, and thank you very much for your time. It was a high level, really high touch on WEKA, who we are, where we fit. If you want to know some of our competitors are people like IBM Spectrum Scale, or what was known as GPFS. We have BGFS, Gluster, a cluster store from HPE, any parallel file system, but then people like Isilon, EMC's Isilon, or Dell EMC's Isilon, should I say. We have Pure Storage, Network Appliance. They all want to play in the space we're trying to attract, but we can just pure performance take them away very, very quickly. But thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And hopefully if there's any questions, please shout, but thank you very much.
So, Adrian, thank you very much for your interactive presentation. As Adrian mentioned, jestli máte nějaké dotazy, klidně napište, nebo i klidně offline, kontaktujte náš tým v ASBISu, určitě předáme dál, určitě odpovíme.